Big appearance from President Trump. He is back in the hot seat, back on Capitol Hill. What do you know? Big story.
Donald Trump
I think Fox
is going to be on Capitol Hill. There's a live look outside Republican headquarters just off the Capitol building there. He's in D.C. for the first time since he left the White House. He'll talk unity with House Republicans first, then he'll talk about unity with Senate Republicans. Can he get everyone on the same page? And he might make a comment as he goes inside. So we're going to watch this camera and bring that to you.
Anyway, Donald Trump making the return to Capitol Hill today, and he got a very warm reception. Republicans coming fresh off their baseball win. At least they're winning at something, right? Ladies and gentlemen, they won the baseball game last night. And then they were there greeting Donald Trump today. They gave him some birthday wishes. His birthday, by the way, is tomorrow. So they sang happy birthday. All was hunky-dory, except, of course, for, the routine protesters outside. I believe Matt Gaetz got hit with a few. Let's watch him walking in.
Winning. Bootlicker. Bootlickers. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
You swayed me. I'm turning sides now.
Oh, good.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. I won't even pay you to do this stuff, man. Do not job, man.
Is that Byron? Nice. Oh,
boy. You're normalizing an insurrectionist.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. It's just so distasteful. But you know what? I'll take that any day over what we've seen on some college campuses. So there were protesters out there. They were calling them bootlickers, this, that, and the other. Look, the guy is running for president of the United States of America. People just need to get their heads around that. Okay. No, he may go to jail, but this whole idea that somehow he's going to go away because you hit him with 91 counts, including 4 criminal. No, it's not working. In fact, he earned the name Teflon Don for a reason. It's like they keep throwing it at him and he keeps coming back stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And part of it's just purely the fact that we're in a pretty bad state right now, from an economic perspective, from a border perspective, from a morale perspective, for goodness sakes. I'm serious on that. Not to mention internationally what's going on. But in addition to those protesters that you just saw, I want to show you this clip of one protester who really, you know what? It's his business, right? Like, he's free to protest out there. I'm a big believer in free speech. You do you, I do me. But here's the thing, you still need to treat people, including officers, police officers, with some respect. This guy clearly didn't have any for this woman who's just out there trying to do her job as a police officer in Washington, D.C., not an easy place to be, right? That is not an easy beat. Let's watch the clip.
You have to clear it. You need to back them up. This is not my first rodeo. I'm back. I'm clear. I don't get in the way of anybody. You're telling me to go get out of here and don't let anybody see or hear you. And that is not free speech.
So sorry for the loss of your dignity, sir.
So, if you really want to do that, get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer? Really? That's come on. All right. You know what? Again, the woman's just trying to do her job. It would be nice if some folks on the left could have a little bit of respect for those in uniform. But it is what it is. It is what it is these days, ladies and gentlemen. One of the things that these protesters are protesting about, of course, is the fact that he's back there on Capitol Hill, and they keep pointing to J6 and all that went down at that time. But it's an interesting thing for them to bring up at this particular moment in time, because he was highly criticized for not sending in the National Guard. Remember that? And then he said, but wait a second, I tried. I tried to send the National Guard in, and guess what? I got literally nowhere. Well, there's a reason for that. You see, there's this thing called bureaucracy, federal government at its best. And apparently this was Nancy Pelosi's job, to call in the National Guard. And for whatever reason, Nancy Pelosi didn't do it. And that never came out. In fact, just the opposite came out. But a newly resurfaced tape has Nancy admitting the actual truth. I want you to see this because, her daughter Alexandra was running around shooting all this video, and Alexandra somehow managed to get this particular comment on tape, but then never bothered to reveal it. So this just came out. It's Nancy admitting the truth about what her responsibility was on that particular day. Let's watch.
We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient
That
resources.
is not a question of how they had, but they don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Oh, wow, Nancy, we're really glad you take responsibility for that because you haven't before. In fact, if anything, you've just been pointing the fingers all around the mulberry bush at everybody else, specifically on one man, that would be the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. It's all his fault entirely. He didn't stop it. Well, you wouldn't let him because you were controlling the access to the actual people that would have prevented all the craziness from ensuing, right? That was your job. You were supposed to call in the National Guard, and you didn't do it. In fact, we've looked at some of the testimony. We've looked at some of the interviews. And prior to that infamous day, Nancy had every opportunity in the world, and she didn't bother. Why didn't she bother? Ask yourself that question. I was asking myself. It came out later that indeed Donald Trump had tried to do this. Donald Trump tried to get the National Guard in there. He pushed hard. And they don't want you to know this. They don't want you to believe this. They don't want you to think they could have ever done that. But you know what? He did try. And this has since come out. In fact, thanks to the Federalist and Molly Hemingway's reporting there at the Federalist, she had this exclusively in which she explained how Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee deliberately suppressed any evidence of Donald Trump pushing for the National Guard on that infamous day. This would have been the exonerating evidence, but they did not want you to see this. Ask yourself why. Again, we just need the truth out there. I'm tired. I'm tired of the politics, okay? We need people to understand what's really going on, whether it be with the border. New concerns today about just exactly who has been let in. Fox News reporting that there are 8 people with ties to ISIS terror groups. I mean, what the heck is going on, Joe Biden? You're making a big free-for-all. You're the one who sat there in the Democrat debate back in 2020 and said you encouraged people to, quote, stampede the border. Seriously. Well, we're paying for it now. And that's not a good place for America to be. You wonder why you're getting massacred in the polls. It's not that hard to figure out. I mean, here's the thing. All right, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Anyone, almost anyone, could beat Donald Trump. Like the kid at your local, forgive me, anyone could beat Joe Biden, okay? Anyone. Like the kid at your local student council high school is going to beat Joe Biden. Anyone. It's just interesting that it's Donald Trump, right? That's going to come in. That's what makes it so hard for the left. And let me also be very specific that while I say anybody could beat him and should beat him, I do believe that Donald Trump actually is going to win this thing because that's how bad it is for our nation. And you know what? You get what you asked for, Joe. You don't have a clue about policy. And as a result of that, people are going to vote you out. And that's exactly how it should be here in the United States of America. Every single poll shows this. So granted, yes, anyone should be able to beat Joe Biden, assuming that we have free and fair elections, dare I say. I mean, I'm bringing it up because guess what happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut? You guys saw the tape. We talked all about it yesterday. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch yesterday's show. Look what happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut. 4 people have been arrested. How did it take them 3.5 years? Why was it 3.5 years to actually formally arrest them? Governor Lamont, a Democrat in Connecticut, is asking this very question. Because the scandal is that they sat on this thing. I mean, the scandal is obviously what went down. It went down in 2019. So they found out about it 3.5 years ago. Well, what happened 3.5 years ago? Oh, dear. Oh, my. Joe Biden was elected president of the United States, and then came into office, and suddenly I couldn't say these words, right? Like what I'm actually saying right now here on this live show. Please make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, all of that good stuff. I couldn't have said this even. I mean, it was so uptight and so stressful. They just came out a few months ago and said you can talk about election interference, et cetera. I mean, it was crazy. Like, where is our First Amendment? You couldn't talk about this stuff. And suddenly the people that were responsible for this ballot maneuvering, or whatever you call it, they've got all kinds of fancy ways of saying, I guess you're not supposed to say ballot stuffing, or, writing in people's votes, or whatever else you want to call it. You're not supposed to say that. Whatever that was, that got like torpedoed to the point where now the Democrat governor of Connecticut is like, what the heck, people? 3.5 years later, you finally bothered to arrest Wanda and her friends. I mean, that's scary. Okay, so when I say that anyone should be able to beat Joe Biden, I mean it, assuming that we've got a very level playing field. News out of Fulton County, Georgia. Fulton County, Georgia, what a place. Home to Fannie Willis and Nathan Wade. Fulton County, Georgia. Miscounted votes. They actually double counted some votes. 3,075 votes, to be specific. So this is stuff that needs to get cleaned up. And you know what? Lara Trump's doing a really good job at it. I commend her for trying. You got Governor Youngkin in Virginia, who is ordering a complete forensic accounting, if you would, of their voter rolls in Virginia. So that's a good sign. You've got Fulton County, Georgia's committee that's reviewing their elections, at least demanding some oversight for November. So you're seeing increasingly people get serious about this. But I find it amazing that it took 3.5 years to see anything come of the allegations leveled against 4 individuals in Bridgeport, Connecticut. By the way, all of whom are believed to have tampered with the vote to the point where people are unclear about whether or not the guy really should have been elected mayor. In fact, in the most recent mayoral election just last year, there's video of one of the people actually walking right up to the voting box and putting things in. What's going on there? I mean, they haven't even gotten to that. They got around 2019. What's going on there? Governor Lamont, Democrat, again, out of Connecticut, saying really that she ought to resign from her job that taxpayers are paying for. She's on some kind of leave, so she's still getting paid. I mean, it's amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. But it's a curious time. The Democrats have themselves one bad candidate. And they think that they can run based on just, Trump is bad, Trump is awful, Trump is whatever. And I do think that ultimately Americans go to the voting booths and they say, well, how am I doing? How do I think I'm going to do? And so it does come back to the economy, stupid. To quote Carville, right? James Carville, who coined the phrase with Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid, and our economy is not good. I'm going to have more coming up on that in just a quick moment, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick moment. One of our great sponsors here on the program happens to be American Heart for Gold. If you're interested in buying gold, you should definitely give these guys a call. Really, really terrific team. Big company. They've been growing and growing and growing. There's a lot of interest in gold, understandably, given some of the chaos in the world right now. So you can call them at 1-844-495-1115. Use my name to receive up to $15,000 in free silver, or text Trish to 65532. Text Trish to 65532. Again, up to $15,000 in free silver. It's a pretty neat offer. So text Trish right now, 65532, or go to the link. This is easy. You can't forget this one. Trish Loves Gold. TrishLovesGold.com. If you forget that, you're in trouble. Anyway, go check it out and try to get that offer. Up to $15K in free silver. And silver keeps climbing too, ladies and gentlemen. Keeps climbing as well. So, big day on Capitol Hill. The former president talking to GOP lawmakers. And of course, he's having a little bit of fun and he likes to tell stories. And the next thing you know, somebody's tweeting about it. This reporter from an internet news organization started tweeting out what Donald Trump said about Nancy Pelosi. He seems to recall, it's a wild story, by the way, completely wild, so buckle up, okay? He seems to recall one of the daughters saying to him, jokingly that in another world that, maybe the two of them would have dated. The two of them would have gotten along just great. They might have been a thing. I'm not so sure that one of the daughters said that, but this is what Donald Trump remembers, and this is the story he told, and everybody's laughing, and this, that, and the other. He's sort of saying, you know what, like, she's not that bad. He's like sort of throwing her a bone, but the daughter takes it way too seriously. One of the daughters, I think she's got like 4 daughters. And so the next thing you know, the daughter's responding on Twitter, and now it becomes this whole big thing. Look at this. Nancy Pelosi's daughter, this is in the Daily Mail, great paper, avidly denied Donald Trump's account that one of the former speaker's daughters had told him that he and her mom would have been a great thing together in another life. Quote, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, he said, oh, this is bad, is a wacko. He's laughing, right? Her daughter told me if things were different, Nancy and I would have been perfect together. There's an age difference, though, he said. She's a little bit older. Anyway, multiple members confirmed to dailymail.com that Trump had indeed told the story of her daughter mentioning Pelosi and Trump would be great together. Well, the daughter did not take kindly to that. She's out on Twitter saying there's no way this ever happened, and he's completely a lunatic, and this feeds into the wacko narrative. It was Jake Sherman who actually tweeted this out, and she writes, Christine Pelosi, speaking for all 4 Pelosi daughters, this is a lie in all caps. His deceitful, deranged obsession with our mother is yet another reason Donald Trump is unwell, unhinged, and unfit to step foot anywhere near her or the White House. Wow. So he's got a deranged obsession with the mother. I don't know about that. I actually think that the mother might have a bit of a deranged obsession with Donald Trump. But it's not entirely deranged, right? There's a method to the madness, as I was saying earlier, because Biden is so beatable. So what do? You double down on this narrative that Trump is not stable, that Trump is going to ruin democracy, that Trump is bad, 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 and you are bad if you even think for 2 seconds of voting for the guy. That's their entire political shtick. It's pretty alarming, right? But that's what they want you to think, and hopefully you think more of yourself than to allow the Democrats to frame your position. But Nancy Pelosi, in a weird way, is obsessed with Trump. As is Whoopi Goldberg, as is Joy Behar, as is, remember that Kathy Griffith? I mean, they're all obsessed with Donald Trump. But let me be very clear. It's not just Donald Trump they're obsessed with. I mean, they go after anyone and everyone. Think about it. Look at how they went after Ron DeSantis. They called him all the same things that they're calling Donald Trump. Look at how they went after even Nikki Haley, who, right, should be like the cheerleader of their club. And they were saying that she was racist because she didn't have a good enough explanation when she was talking about the Civil War. And did she dare to say that there were some economic issues involved? Couldn't even go there, right? I mean, let me just tell you, as a student of economic history, guess what? There were economic issues involved. A lot of this was about how the economy was changing, North versus South. Were we going to be an agrarian economy? Were we going to be an industrial economy? And yes, there was obviously the issue of human beings, but Nikki Haley wasn't entirely wrong when she talked about the economic roots of the Civil War, but they jumped on her like you wouldn't believe. And by the way, the woman is Indian on top of it. So she's technically a minority herself. I mean, what do they want? Look at them going after Byron Donalds, who I know you love, out of Florida. The congressman, the only congressman I know that can talk about the Federal Reserve. Like literally talk about the Federal Reserve with you for like an hour and have a substantive conversation on the economy. He's a former money manager, so he knows this stuff. Byron is Black. And he talked about during the days after the Civil War how Black Americans were married and they were going to school and they were staying in their family units. And actually, it was the 1960s in Johnson and the economic policies of welfare that destroyed the Black family by kicking the man out of the house. Now, Byron's not wrong in saying anything like that, but what do you read in the headlines? Byron Donalds, he just wants to go back to the Jim Crow South. I mean, this is dangerous to them. So my point being, they don't have anything else to run on. They don't have policy. For goodness sakes, if you really want to run on that whole race issue, I mean, Joe Biden does not exactly have a good track record, and Kamala Harris pointed that out in the 2020 debate. I couldn't believe he picked her as VP. It shows you how political he really is. But she pointed out, hey, buddy, you were against busing. You were against the integration of schools in America because you were standing with your friend, was it from South Carolina? I mean, look. You can have that talk all day. I don't see Trump going around calling people boy. That's what Biden does over and over again. So they don't have a darn thing to run on. So what do? They go back to the well and they make stuff up. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, all in a tizzy. I just tell her to calm down, to laugh it off. You just made a way bigger deal of it. She thinks this is going to help. It's not. It's not. That helps Trump, not Nancy.